Welcome back, drag racing fan. It is Between the Slicks with yours truly, Lee Kraft, the Monday Morning Racer. Dive into that comment section. Let me know where you're viewing from. Good to be back with you on Thursday night in studio this time here in the upstate of South Carolina. And sorry about last week. Slight little medical issue going on and just traveling, trying to get to Odessa, Texas for the Funny Car Chaos event at Penwell Knights Raceway. Decided not to go live because when I'm traveling, this is what happens. To do a live show, I've got to obviously stop. I have to find internet, and I've got to go live. And what is the best place to go live from? Well, it's usually a motel room because most motels now have rather decent internet, and you're not having to worry about signal. And some places get weird about going live in their facility, like a Starbucks or something, which would probably be okay, but I have had issues like a Waffle House is like, well, we don't want you going live. It's like, oh, okay, cool. Won't go live. I'll find a motel. But when you're making a trip and yet you're behind and you've hit construction, you've hit wrecks, you're trying to continue going on down the road, and you also have a slight little medical issue going on, it just makes it challenging. But we did have for you, which did premiere last Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, the footage from Virginia Motorsports Park of professional teams testing, including Top Fuel, Pro Stock Motorcycle, Pro Stock, Mountain Motor Pro Stock, and a few others. So if you have not caught that and you're watching tonight, go by, definitely catch that and enjoy it. And also concerning content, there was a video dropped earlier today for content on the Monday Morning Racer YouTube channel, and you can see it exclusively there. And make sure when you go there, you subscribe, which is free. But Virginia Nationals eliminations of Constant Aviation factory stock showdown. I was there and decided to film these factory hot rods ripping down the Virginia Motorsports Park drag strip, full quarter mile, and you can see that on the Monday Morning Racer YouTube channel. And what great drag racing it is, always with the factory stock boys and girls in the Fords, in the Dodges, and in the Chevys. So let me dive into the comment section here really quickly. Pat says, good to see you, Lee. Beautiful evening here in Southeast Texas. That's good to hear, Pat. It's a bit rainy here in the upstate of South Carolina. Sam Smith says, someday I hope to be as cool as you and your guests. Sam, you can only hope, man. You can only hope. No, Sam's pretty cool in his own right. He just can't go as low as he used to be able to. Sam Smith, Slammin' Sam, my co-host on the Competition Plus Power Hour. And by the way, we had a good show. I mean, look, every show has its ups and downs, its ebbs and flows, and some of them are just naturally going to be better than others. You just hope you have a baseline that you hit each and every time, and you let the shows come out as they will progress. And sometimes you can't manufacture a show to be something good. You just can't do it. It just happens. And wow, we had Al Segrini, a legendary funny car driver name from back in the day of NHRA drag racing. He was such a great interview. And then we had the daredevil of our day in drag racing, Scott Palmer, on. Al Segrini and Scott Palmer. What a good show that was to have and interview them and chat with them. So you can check that out there on Competition Plus Power Hour. Dennis Fram, happy Memorial Day. Yes, happy Memorial Day. And what is Memorial Day, ladies and gentlemen? Well, it is a day of memorying those who we have lost in active duty. That is the purpose of it. It is different from Veterans Day, which is a day in which we remember all veterans. But in particular, Memorial Day coming up, the ushering in of summer, yes, but it is situated so that we remember those who have lost their lives in active duty, allowing us to have the liberty that we have in this country. And to each and every one of them, we remember you. Thank you. And I'm glad that we get to go and do drag racing in this country. Eric says hello. Thanks for the show. Thank you, man, for watching. Todd Yount says, one cool Amish man. Yes, John Force, as he said earlier. And well, maybe we'll ask Sara about that and him coming up with nicknames. Morgan Bratcher says, will this be available to view later? Yes, it takes a little while for YouTube to do it, but there is a replay. There is just a static episode afterwards, if you will, and not the live interaction, live segment. It does come back up to be a regular video, if you will. Well, tonight's show, let's get into it. Who do we have tonight? I'm looking forward to this one. Sara Slaughter will be on with us later tonight at the half-hour mark, thereabouts roughly. And she is the public relations director for John Force Racing. So John Force, Robert Height, Brittany Force. I'm sure it even involves way much more than just the racing teams. I am looking forward to talking to her. She is one cool cat out there in the drag racing world, and she's lively and bubbly, and yet can quite have a serious tone at times, for sure. I'm looking forward to having her on and just getting her story, because I imagine from what I have gathered, and I haven't asked her whole story because I knew one day I'm going to have her on the show and we're going to have this type of conversation, because this show is not just about drivers. It's not just about big names. It's about everybody in drag racing, because everybody's got a story. And I want their stories, and I want you to hear their stories, because it's more than the cars and stars that make drag racing happen. There are so many behind the scenes that allow you to get that highlight video, that allow you to get that post media release, that allow you to be clued in as a fan or someone in the media. So I think, as Kev for Fun 12 says, Sara is going to be awesome. It's great you're exposing this side of the sport. I appreciate that, man. And look, that's part of Between the Slicks. When I thought of the name, it's everything between the slicks, and occasionally even talking to the people on one slick that are on the motorcycle world, and it's just Between the Slick, or in front of the slick, or behind the slick. Maybe need to change the name for when we have the motorcycle guys on. Anyway, Between the Slicks, everybody in the world of drag racing, because they have a story. All right. Before we get to drag racing news tonight, and there's definitely good news to cover in the world of drag racing, we go into this Memorial Day weekend, and the Memorial Day weekend, honestly, has to be the greatest weekend in motorsports. You can wake up, and you can, at least here in the United States of America, you wake up early and enjoy the Grand Prix of Monaco. That is one of the longest running races in the world, and had competitions there even before F1 was competing there. They had this Grand Prix. We roll into lunchtime here in the United States of America, and we can enjoy the Indianapolis 500 in Indianapolis, Indiana, portrayed as the greatest spectacle in racing. And I'm going to be able to enjoy that this year. I'm going to go to my first ever IndyCar race, and it will be my first ever Indianapolis 500. I've got my ticket. I'm looking forward to going. I plan on doing a vault vlog and my experience and showcasing some of the racing, getting some photos. But it's my plan to be an Indy this year. And then we go into what was the World 600, Coca-Cola 600 at Charlotte Motor Speedway, the longest NASCAR race of the year, 600 miles. And it is one of the crown jewels of that sport. So this is what I put out to you, those of you watching along. Before we take a small break, dive into the comments section. Do you think drag racing, and when I say drag racing, I'm talking about the top levels of the sport, and in particular, yes, NHRA Camping World Drag Racing, because that is the pinnacle. Whether you don't like drag racing or not, it is the pinnacle. Whether you don't like NHRA, it's the pinnacle. So, do you think, and yes, I know at one time there was, but do you think the NHRA Camping World Series should jump in on the action on Memorial Day weekend and have a race along with Monaco, along with Indianapolis 500, along with the Coke 600 there in Charlotte? So, as we take a break, I want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on that? And we will continue on in the show tonight. This word from Destroyer 1320.
If you own a beautiful modern muscle car like this 1320 Challenger, I'm sure you don't want it stolen. Because the Challenger and many other modern vehicles have an easily accessible neutral release strap. That was your coin holder in your center console, and beneath that there's this red cord that someone can pop, put it into neutral, and potentially easily steal your car. But at Destroyer1320.com, they have the TDS, Theft Deterrent System, which is a cover over that strap using factory mounting points so that you don't get popped by a thief. So make sure to go to Destroyer1320.com using promo code MMR for 15% off and get your Theft Deterrent System TDS and steal the thieves' hope.
All right, we're back, and thank you for going to the comment section and chiming in. Drag Racing Central says NHRA would be competing with a lot of eyes. Those events work because they have a lot of history. If NHRA, say, added a Tulsa race on Memorial Day, it would have nothing to the casual fan compared to Indy. And I think that is a great point. To have a Memorial Day race, you are trying to fit in a very narrow window. Granted, typically for drag racing, that window would be available because when is it often aired? It's aired in the evening, but not too terribly late. The Charlotte race runs much later into the evening, oftentimes like finishing at 11:30. But I think you have to play into that. Well, we have Labor Day. That's when we have our biggest drag race in the world, the U.S. Nationals, and that gets spotlighted, and people see that on Labor Day. If we were going to have a Memorial Day race, it could fit in that narrow window. What does have to be considered is, does drag racing pick up anything by being on the same day of all these other motorsports events and the lead-in factor? And we've seen ratings go up for drag races when there's a NASCAR lead-in, lead-out. We've seen ratings go up. Actually, the most watched ever drag race live in history, it was able to accumulate that because of an NFL lead-in and lead-out. So would it be beneficial to the sport of NHRA Camping World to have a lead-in and lead-out to these events, them already being motorsports, and motorsports fans engaged, and possibly having advertisement on the earlier broadcasts, such as Indy or even the F1 race in Monaco? I do like what Kenneth says. He says night race. What if that was the time in which there was a dedicated night race for NHRA Camping World Series, and it was all competed into the night? And maybe it doesn't run on Sunday. Maybe it runs on Saturday and kicks off the motorsports weekend, rolling right in to Monaco. And instead of trying to be right in the middle of everything on Sunday, kick it off on Saturday, and it's a true night race. I like that idea. Sam chimes in, says night race is the ticket. I think we need that in NHRA drag racing. I think drag racing sells itself as a spectacle in the world of motorsports when you put nitromethane being burned at night. It's just impressive. The header flames, the sights, the sounds, the smells of drag racing at night are fabulous for sure. Eric says, what about an all-star race, funny car versus top fuel? Yeah, I think that goes in line with what Kenneth is saying, Sam's saying, And that may be a good time to do that. Now, granted, I'm not the biggest fan of having Funny Car versus Top Fuel every year. I don't think it should happen every year. I think it should be in every 3, every 5 years, because the first time it was done, it was extremely popular. And then the second time it was done, and I think that was right the very next year, it didn't seem like it went over very well. Now, many, many years removed, I'm demanding it. And Eric, you're demanding it. And so many fans are demanding it. And I even walked up to Brian Loans at Phoenix Testing and asked him, all right, so we saw NASCAR have good success of putting a Bowman Gray style track inside the LA Coliseum. They got good ratings and they had a decent turnout for fans, and it was a showcase event. What can drag racing do? Can we put a strip in a stadium somehow and of a horseshoe and run it out that way? And Brian was like, oh, the answer is Funny Car versus Top Fuel. And I have to agree with him. We need to do it again. And it pops up regularly on Competition Plus Power Hour or the Wes Buck Show or right here on Between the Slicks or any other show. People are demanding it and people are wanting it. And to see it and it be at night, that very well may be the ticket. Drag Racing Central says NHRA has to compete with angry neighbors at night race would be hard. Well, there's ways to work that out, though. It's just that simple. You communicate, you make offers, you make concessions, and whatever you got to do, and you come to an agreement and you get it done. Because there's other motorsports that run well into the night. There are even 24-hour races, such as Daytona. So it can be done, and it just needs to be worked out, whatever those people are asking for, figure out a way and make it happen. Paul Griffin says Top Fuel is always at night down in Australia. You know, they do. They run at night a lot down there, and you see a lot of imagery of them running at night, even for their eliminations, and it does need to happen more often here in the United States of America. We need to figure it out. It doesn't need to just happen because of a rain delay. I can remember going to the Southern Nationals, and they used to have a true nighttime qualifying session, and then eventually it crept to being a twilight kind of qualifying session, and then it went to the point like it was early evening, and you were like hoping throughout the day there might come a little shower to push the session back, and you see actual nighttime qualifying. So I think it's doable. I don't think it is necessary for drag racing, for NHRA Camping World Series drag racing to have a race on Memorial Day weekend. I don't think it's necessary. And I think what could happen, and if it does happen, do not attempt to go toe-to-toe with Monaco, with the Indy 500, or the Coca-Cola 600. Don't go toe-to-toe. Be the first or be the last of the weekend. That is the only way in which I think it works. And yes, it needs to be some type of night event for the element that is NHRA drag racing, burning nitromethane and a Top Fuel dragster and a funny car, and the spectacle that it is, to use it as leverage in front of everything else going on that weekend, one of the oldest, one of the greatest, one of the longest, and say, well, we have one of the coolest, and let it be shown and let it be known. So, Memorial Day drag racing, maybe. All right, folks, let's transition here to drag news. A lot of good news going on in the world of drag racing. Well, to kick it off in the world of drag racing news, I do want to mention Funny Car Chaos. I am the pit reporter for Funny Car Chaos, and I'm thoroughly enjoying my time there. Thank you, Chris Graves. Thank you to all that work there at Funny Car Chaos and the competitors in Funny Car Chaos. It's nice to walk into a pit and people appreciate you being there, and they show their appreciation, and they know why you're there, and they realize you've got a job and you need to do it quickly, and they get on camera, you do your part, and you get them on Flow Racing and beyond, showcasing who they are, because Funny Car Chaos is more than funny cars. As a person driving that car, my aim and my goal this year is definitely that you get to know the people and the competitors of Funny Car Chaos, and there's some great characters out there. The man leading the way right now, you see him all the way to the right, Kirk Williams and Williams Brothers Racing in the 200 proof funny car. They just won 3 in a row in Rodax Custom Coffee A field competition. And in the B field, it was a first-time Funny Car Chaos winner, Danny Smith. He brings out his funny car, made some adjustments to it, comes out to Funny Car Chaos, wins his first ever Funny Car Chaos event. He is there, right there in the center, holding up the trophies in the blue t-shirt, and he was ecstatic over this win, and it was huge for them. And in the C field, the Wolf Pumps C field, Clay Cunningham. Now, Clay Cunningham and the Still Crazy Funny Car, they are a field running car, but they had some issues. They had troubles, and they were qualified in the C field, and they got the job done, which is tricky because in the B and the C field, you have to run within an index, and they were able to run within that index and still win the race. They were able to detune, pedal, drive it, and get the job done. And yes, the furry thing is a dog, and he just never wants to actually look at the camera when you need him to look at the camera. But other than that, he's a good boy. He's a good boy. So congratulations to all of those that won in Funny Car Chaos, and it was a great race. It was a challenging race. We had great weather Friday. We had great weather Sunday around the day of eliminations, and Saturday was challenging because we were dealing with dust. The wind was blowing. We actually waited, and we had to push it back like an hour and a half, 2 hours to get the show going. And then we ran into night, and the wind picked back up, and the driver said it was extremely hard to see. It was hard to see standing still. You can only imagine near 200 miles per hour what it looked like with, well, in a sandblaster, if you will. Pat says, this has become my favorite series. Great people and some really cool cars. Thank you for keeping us updated. It is a great series. It definitely is. Folks, if you are anywhere near a Funny Car Chaos event, you need to get there. There's so much variety. It's not just nostalgia drag racing. It is not just big show drag racing. It's funny cars and run what you brung. And it is such a cool way of doing drag racing. If you're near a Funny Car Chaos event, you need to go, and then come by and see me and say hello. Continuing in drag racing news, the PDRA, they are racing this weekend, the PDRA DeSerbo Construction American Door Slammer Challenge presented by Callie's. They are at Norwalk Summit Motorsports Park there in Norwalk, Ohio. And the event last year was plagued by weather. They did get it in, and it was a wild one. There were first-time winners in the PDRA, and there was two incidents, one in 630 in Pro Outlaw 632 and one in Pro Nitrous. It was a wild and challenging time, but they got it in, and it was a good drag race. They are fighting a little bit of weather even right now, but it does look, by the time eliminations roll around on Saturday, the weather will be just fine, and we will get this show in. I plan to be there and film the race, film the competition, so you can be looking forward to the content right here on Monday Morning Racer of Pro Nitrous, Pro Boost, and also Extreme Pro Stock. My picks, I put these picks in the chat on the Wes Buck Show. My picks are for Pro Nitrous. If he is there, it's kind of hard to find an entry list for the PDRA, but I imagine he is there. He's doing well in points. Mike Achenbach, the Mountain Man, I think he will pick up the win. And then in Pro Boost, Todd Tutterow is on a roll. I think he's going to continue on that roll. And then in Extreme Pro Stock, I'm going to go with Elijah Morton. Elijah was extremely close in picking up the win on Sunday at Virginia Motorsports Park. He red lit, left too soon, and he was down on himself, and it was rough. He has not won yet to date a NHRA event. He's been in like 4 or 5 finals. So I think Elijah Morton comes back and gets the job done. He is hungry, and he wants to make up for that red light he had in the finals there at Virginia Motorsports Park of the Mountain Motor Competition. Well, everyone wants to talk about tracks closing, right? Well, oftentimes here, I like to remind people tracks are actually improving. Tracks are actually becoming better. So, and I'll answer Drag Racing Central's question before we move on to this next bit of news. Is Nitro Chaos on Flow Racing like Funny Car Chaos? Yes, it is. So you can see Nitro Chaos on Flow Racing, and that is coming up not this weekend, but the weekend after next, the second rendition of Nitro Chaos there at Eddyville, Iowa. The next bit of news, good news, is Bradenton Motorsports Park down there in Florida. Victor Alvarez, the owner down there, they are making improvements to the track in what is kind of their summer lull, summer break. You know, Bradenton is definitely known for a track that races later and earlier than most, and they've got a span where they're going to get some work done. But that right there, Victor Alvarez, what are they doing? Well, they tore out some of the old wooden grandstands, and they have new grandstands, new to them at least, grandstands purchased and coming in. There's going to be brand new asphalt underneath those grandstands, and they are getting them from Palm Beach International Raceway. You know, we're still trying to figure out what is happening there, but with that track possibly closing, upgrades can be made to Bradenton, and they also, for the racers, are going to be widening a return road, which has been a bit of an issue apparently when they have big events. So they're going to widen the return road, make it easier to ingress and egress, and get this, already bad fast track, they're about to go full concrete. They're going to be redoing the surface, and those are big projects over this summer that they intend to complete. Grandstands, widening of a return road, and redoing the surface, where from what I read in the article, it is going to be a full concrete quarter mile. That is going to be impressive, and that is going to make that track even faster. And though it may not be great English, even better. That is going to be cool to see. In the world of drag racing, I feel like at times it doesn't get the credit that is due. Well, one of those moments is in Hall of Fames. You go to like Motorsports Hall of Fames, and oftentimes you'll see more open wheel, you'll see more stock car, and you don't see enough drag car. Well, the North Carolina Hall of Fame, Auto Racing Hall of Fame, has made an addition, Charles Carpenter, and his 55 Chevrolet, which is credited to being like the first Pro Mod. And it's impressive what they did. They added nitrous to this thing eventually, and it's the first shoebox to ever go in the 7s. Really set off kind of what Pro Mod became, with Charles and others going to little tracks like Shuffletown, Shadyside, and beyond, and running the Quick 8 type of programs, and that turning into what we understand as Pro Mod today. Well, Charles Carpenter and his 55 Chevy, they have placed it in the North Carolina Auto Racing Hall of Fame and its museum. Look at this 55 Chevy. I can see a Richard Petty car. I can see a Kyle Petty car. I can see what looks like a Tony Stewart car. That's at least what I can make out. And now drag racing has the inception of Pro Mod basically in the same Auto Racing Hall of Fame. That is cool. And I can remember this thing being in magazines and on front of magazines, and it was one bad hot rod in its day. But if you ever near it's in Mooresville, North Carolina, the North Carolina Auto Racing Hall of Fame and Museum, go check this car out. It's basically what started Pro Mod as we understand it. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, Pro Mod is not that old of a class when you actually think about it and its lifespan. And lastly, before we get Miss Slaughter on, she is in studio. These guys, the front engine top fuelers, nostalgia top fuelers, the modern take on such an outdated way of doing it, but they're so wickedly cool on a small tire, just moving around and too much horsepower and not enough aerodynamics. They have announced, yes, they are going to run with that boycott of the Heritage Run there in Bowling Green, the All-American Fuel Drag Group. They are going to participate in the Midwest Drag Racing Series event June 17th through 18th at Worldwide Technology Raceway, or as many of us would remember it as Gateway. They are heralding it as the largest gathering of these type of cars in 20 years. And it does definitely remain to be seen if this is a good move or if this is going to be detrimental to this class and to the Heritage Series of the NHRA. We will see. I wish there might have been a little bit more patience and compromise on both sides. And I feel that we are going to look at this moment and it's going to be a step forward for this class, yet in the long term, 2 steps backwards. I definitely want to talk to some of the people that participate in it, like Joey Haas, and get their opinion on the matter. But they are moving forward with a boycott, and they're going to run the Midwest Drag Racing Series coming up June 17th through the 18th at Worldwide Technology Raceway Park. Pat, yes, definitely. Charles Carpenter was a pioneer, and I'm glad that he was able to get that honor. It's definitely deserved. Well, ladies and gentlemen, look, we're going to take a break. And right after the break, we're going to have Miss Sara Slaughter on, the Public Relations Director for John Force Racing. Can't wait to get her story, and hopefully she's got some great stories for us of trying to corral Mr. Force. I'm sure there have been a few moments like that. This word from Power Built Tools, and Miss Slaughter is on.
Power Built Tools exemplifies innovation in the tool industry. From hand tools, power tools, and even tool storage. Check out powerbuilt.com for Power Built Tools. And remember, use promo code MMR15 for 15% off at purchase.
Sara, girl.
Hi. How's it going?
Man, it's going good. Always a joy to talk drag racing, and I'm in studio, which makes it a little bit easier. I'm not just, running down the road and like, am I going to make my motel and get in there and have enough internet and all that good stuff? But it's going great. And hey, man, look at you flexing with little Wally back there in the background. That's cool.
Yeah. Or you can't. I don't know which direction he is. That's actually the one from 2019 Houston. It's Robert. He gave it to me after he run that race. So yeah, that's the only one that I have. So I just keep it to a minimum. I actually had to bring it home from the actual office. I usually leave it in there, but I felt like I needed a little something there. So
yeah, a little something drag racing since we're talking
exactly.
about it. And I do want to let you know, Sam Smith says he is a little jealous. So
hi, Sam.
Thank you for coming on my show before his. I can appreciate that, and I can razz him on that one. So thank you.
No problem.
Well, let's start with first. John Force Racing Public Relations Director. That's a mouthful. What does that mean? What does that entail?
Oh man. So I pretty much handle I like to say that I want everybody to be talking about John Force Racing everywhere that we go. I want newspapers to be talking about it, radio, podcasts, social media. So it's I get to tell their story. I get to tell their story about a specific race. If I'm introducing new people to the actual sport, I handle their scheduling. I help handle appearances. I'm with them at appearances. I schedule the media hits that they get. I pitch the media hits that they get. That's harder than actually scheduling them, you know. So, and you know, I'm the one running around at the racetrack, making sure they're all where they're supposed to be at the time that they're supposed to be there, and trying to keep all that in order.
All right, you mentioned pitch a media hit. What do you mean by that?
So like it's different for us. We don't have like a home, you know, stadium or anything like that. So each market that we go into, it's basically reintroducing John Force Racing and reintroducing drag racing realistically to that market because we only go there once a year. It's hard to keep up relationships that I've luckily been able to do it at a few places and consider some of the reporters there my friends and people I can reach out to when we need things. But you know, letting them know that hey, we're coming to town and you want to talk to us and you want to talk to us because we've done A, B, and C. It's also, you know, in between things trying to pitch, you know, Austin he's a cook, he's a trained chef. You know, trying to get him on some cooking shows and taking that angle so people kind of get to know him and you know, Robert with his trap shooting that he does, which is really incredible. Got to see it for the first time last year. I went with him and his team when we came to Pomona for the Summer Nationals. That was awesome. But you know, trying to tell the different sides of the stories, you know, trying to tell the family side of things, trying to you know, come up with something that people will be interested in, not just the same story over and over again. Yes, there are some people that need a refresh. Yes, if we go into different markets, different audiences, you know, it's the who are we pitch, but otherwise trying to keep it interesting.
Yeah, I imagine with Austin being a cook and Robert having the trap shooting, it would be easy to kind of showcase them. But John's like just funny car. I imagine it's hard to find something
Well,
beyond.
people like the rag to riches story, you know, him coming
Sure.
up in a trailer park and really actually making his money in drag racing. You know, that's where his legacy will always be. Yeah, he talks about he has rentals and this sort of stuff and all that, but he wasn't able to have that if he hadn't had, you know, drag racing to start with. So people like that. People like, you know, that he was still holds the record at his high school for the most losses as a quarterback, you know, and the fact that he was a truck driver, he's relatable. So
Yes. Yes.
you know, he's got so many facets because he's had such a long career that it makes it easy with him too. And Brittany's the same way. I mean, she has so many different things that she's interested in. She's interested in her health and her fitness. She has her cat. Cats are big. Okay.
They are. I'm still trying to figure out like, how can I put kittens on a top fuel dragster and it look natural and I get all the hits on like Instagram, you know?
Yeah, I dig it. Krista Baldwin put at least, you know, a cat print, realistically, you know, leopard print.
Which
So
is so cool, man.
yeah,
I'm
it's
so
cool.
glad we got Krista out there. We need her out there more often. But yeah, cheetah
Yeah.
print on a top fuel dragster. Yes.
I'm for it. I'm for it.
So I imagine Sara Slaughter as a little girl did not dream of being the PR manager for a NHRA team. I imagine it was something wildly different. And I imagine even by the time you go to college, it's still not PR manager of any drag racing team. So where did you think you were going to go and how did you wind up here?
Honestly, I from starting in high school, I knew that I wanted to do something in sports, and I knew I wanted to do something where I got to write. I thought I wanted to be a journalist. My dream job actually was to work for Sports Illustrated. I was holding on pretty tightly to that up until a couple of years into college, actually. So, and I actually didn't even know what NHRA was. To be completely honest, I did not grow up a drag racing fan. The only racing that we religiously watched in my household was Formula One. Still kind of try to catch them on Sundays when we're not racing. So, but when I went to college, I was going to be a creative writing major, and I was going to minor in journalism, and I was working at the local newspaper in Riverside, Press Enterprise. And then my school got rid of the journalism minor before I could declare it. So, creative writing then is just, it was making stuff up for fiction. Nonfiction, you had to write about yourself, and I didn't want to write about myself. And poetry it's poetry. So I had to like really take a step back and figure out what it is that I at least wanted to get my degree in. I wanted to read, I wanted to write, and actually my degree is in political science. I have a BA in political science with a focus in political theory, surprisingly.
What?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what my degree's in. I never really thought I would go into politics, but I enjoyed reading about it. I enjoyed writing about it. It's really easy for me to see both sides of a scenario now. It's really easy for me to argue either side. So I feel like if I ever needed to go into politics, I could, because I'm real middle of the line when it comes to a lot of stuff. But yeah,
Hey,
so
there's plenty in drag racing. I'm sure it's come in handy.
yeah, it's true. It's true. But so when I was still in school, I was working at the school newspaper. I was on the soccer team for 1 year, and then I messed up my ankle, and that kind of ended things for that. I had to have surgery and move on, but I started coaching. So when I graduated, I took on an internship in London for Women's Health and Fitness magazine. Found out that I do not want to be in the magazine, at least not that type of magazine business. It's a lot of, I don't want to say fluff, but it was just, I don't know. It was just not the right type of writing for me. It was real cool to do it in London because I was walking around and seeing this and seeing that, and everything was new and cool and whatever, but I wouldn't want to come back and do it like in Los Angeles or anything. So, I thought I wanted to do college sports for a long time, media relations, a sports director, something like that. Got close a couple of times, got my heart broken a couple of times, and kind of had to take a step back. And I picked 5 states that I was willing to move to. And I told myself that I didn't care what the job was, what level it was at, what sport it was. If the job description was what I thought I wanted to do, I was going to apply for it. I applied for a lot of interesting things in one day, and one of them was NHRA. I got an email back the very next day, and I had to Google what NHRA was. My dad kind of gave me a little inside scoop of what he knew. But I had a phone interview 2 days later, and I had notes sitting out on my coffee table because I didn't know what they were going to ask, and I didn't know anything about the sport. And it went well because the following week I was their Glendora office here in California, which they've shifted over now closer to the racetrack. But then I was in for an in-person interview, and less than a week later, they were offering me the job. And so that's how I actually got into it. I was a media relations manager for NHRA. I did that for 2 years, met a lot of different racers, experienced a lot of different things, learned a lot, grew a lot, was on the road. I didn't do all of the races, but 13, 14 of them. And then at the end of 2017, I was approached by John and Robert, and they let me know that they had an opening and that they would love for me to apply if I was interested. And the rest is kind of history.
What would you say? And it seems like me being someone that I've been around drag racing most of my life, one way or the other. It seems like drag racing is very accepting of people who have never known what the heck is going on with NHRA drag racing. You talk about yourself. I know that Laura with Fox has a very similar story, even Amanda to some extent. So would you say that, like, hey, I'm coming in fresh, I don't know what this really is, but I am qualified, and you feel like the sport can easily bring people in?
I think it has to, because it is, it's not NASCAR. I mean, IndyCar is kind of in the same boat a little bit, but I think it has to be accepting of people that don't know, and it has to be willing to teach. And I think that's also what's really great about NHRA drag racing is that they are willing to bring you in because they want you to see how awesome the sport is. You know, they want you to have a good experience. And I find myself now with my friends and my family, bringing them out to the racetrack. You know, I love showing them around, letting them experience it and see what it is that I do. I mean, half of them, they have no freaking idea. So to have them come out and experience it and see it, you know, I get excited. I don't necessarily want people to think what I do is cool, but I want people to think that, you know, what I'm promoting is cool. The people that I'm getting to tell their stories about are cool and awesome. And it's something that you want to come to and more than you just want to watch on television. Like, you want to follow these people. You want to get to know the drivers that are actually inside the cars. And so I think NHRA is really accepting of newcomers to the sport. I also think it's because they have to be, they need to be, and they don't have a problem being that way. So I think it's when you have the right people looking for people, finding things, you know, if you're working in the sport, knowing that what somebody's learned in this aspect or here or over there can kind of come together and kind of mold into what it is that you're looking for. You know, shout out to Anthony Vestal at Bristol Communications, because he was the guy that hired me at NHRA when he was still there. And he definitely had to pull pieces together. Like I said, poli-sci major. I don't know. So yeah, I think they are accepting. I think if you're willing to see what it is, what the sport is, if you're willing to experience it, if you're open to having your world literally rocked, then you know, they want to show you that. They want to give that to you.
So on a race day, when it comes to qualifying and the cars in eliminations, you and me actually do something very similar. You're at the line and you actually take, you know, video and photos of the cars going by and launching and everything. What was your first experience like at the line?
So my first time actually being on the line, so working with NHRA, my first ever like full-on race was Phoenix 2016. So it was the second race of the season. I had just signed on and I started like literally the day after Pomona. And we're up in the media room, and like in that position, you don't really have to or need to go down on the line unless you're telling a photographer they're doing something wrong or whatever. So I turned to Anthony. I said, can I go down there? Can I go like experience whatever the heck this is that I'm writing about, you know? So I walked down there. I had no idea who it was in either lane. I have no idea. I think it had to have been Saturday, because I think Friday we qualified and I was like, okay. But I went down there, I stood in between the two cars, not up by the start or anything like that. I kind of stayed back, but I stood there for a burnout, and then I stood there for the launch. And I thought, okay, I could get excited about this, and I think I could get other people excited about this. So it was thrilling, and it was unlike anything I'd ever friggin' experienced before. And I like the competitiveness of it as well. I'm a huge sports fan in general. And I was an athlete, so the competitiveness of it was intriguing to me. You know, being in the media room, and you're not supposed to root for people or have favorites or anything like that, but people are picking and everything, and you know, you fill out your brackets at the beginning and all that stuff. So yeah, it was a positive experience, obviously, or else I probably wouldn't be sitting here right now. But it was shocking, and it was like exhilarating, I guess, is like the best word.
Oh, definitely. I know that first burnout of the weekend just gets me hyped up the rest of the weekend, and I'm good to go.
See, for me, it's the warm-ups when you're in the pit.
Yeah,
and you're
yes.
capturing that first warm-up, and you're like, okay, we're about to have race cars on the race. Like, I mean, we have sportsmen, but we're about to have some freaking nitro happening.
Yes.
So
yes. Yes, nothing like. And then, you know, some of the teams I go in and out with, you got the throttle whack, and they do it. And I was that kid that was going pit to pit back in the day, getting every throttle whack that I could. I was that kid. And I miss all the teams doing throttle wax. It's just, they're so good, so good. And then like leverage, they're doing 2. I was like, yes, thank you. So, well, you mentioned F1. F1's got its biggest race of the year coming up this weekend, Grand Prix of Monaco. So, growing up, who were you a fan of? Schumacher fan, Montoya? Who was the F1 driver?
We were Michael Schumacher fans. It stems from my dad. He was back when you didn't have streaming and all that other stuff or recording stuff or anything like that, and back when F1 wasn't really that popular in the States.
Yes.
So I can remember him waking up really freaking early. We watched practice, we watched qualifying, we watched the actual race. It took a couple years before I was like kind of a little bit more invested, but there was a point there where, that's what we did on Sunday morning was we were getting up and we were going to watch the race. And when he could figure out how to record it, I remember him recording it on VHS a couple of times because it was just god awful hours. I mean, what can you do? But we were Michael Schumacher fans for sure. We obviously, now that Lewis Hamilton's in, we kind of shift over to him. We root for him a lot. Really happy to see that. I can't believe I'm saying this. Really happy to see that Vettel has kind of grown up a little bit. he was tough to handle at first, But I grew up watching all of them and trying to understand their accents. Sometimes was just we would rewind and play it over just to try and figure out, or just to get a good laugh because there was no way we were going to understand it. Yeah, we still do that now, But it's cool that there's so much crossover. Alonso coming over and doing IndyCar, and Raikkonen's going to come and do some one NASCAR race this year, and hoping to do some crossover stuff like that. I think that's awesome. I think that they should come see some drag racing too.
That, I feel the same way. I feel like some of these big stars in motorsports, they have not exposed themselves at times to NHRA drag racing, and the experience when they finally have is positive. Tony Stewart, for example, well, he was exposed years before he was ever involved when Joe Gibbs was involved, and it had a positive experience all the way up to now. There's that great photo of Richard Petty between 2 top field dragsters, just like, as they're doing the burnout, and Buster Couch is laughing. And we need more of that crossover, I think. And pull from some of these bigger motorsports, especially F1. And it fascinates me. You talk to all these motorsports drivers, whether it's sprints or F1 or NASCAR, and you ask them, hey, would you get into a funny car? Would you get into a top field dragster? No, I would have nothing to do with that. But we need them to experience it. Like, I loved last year, Z-Max, Kyle Busch warming up J.R. Todd's funny car, just sitting there and getting the nitro dose, and Bubba Wallace being at the line and things of that nature. More of that can happen. Yeah, I would love to see Lewis Hamilton at an NHRA drag race. That'd be cool.
Yeah. I mean, and you never know. Because it's becoming bigger. F1's becoming bigger in the States, and not that drag racing's not big overseas, but it's definitely something more of a spectacle here, I feel like. So you never know. I feel like something could happen. Could be some crossovers as we get bigger sponsors in, and seeing, maybe it crosses over that way. That's how you got, J.R. Todd and all that, Bubba Wallace and everybody. So I think it's, people have to be willing to say, hey, this would be cool, we should do this, or this would be positive for both sides. You have to make it beneficial for both sides, just like with anything. And you have to make it something that's, really worthwhile. Like, okay, I'm going to come out to a race. Well, I come out and race all the time. Why am I going to this race? Oh, you're going to this race because these cars do this, and you're going to get to do this, and you're going to get to see this, and we're going to put you up in this suite so that you can watch from there, and we're going to put you on the starting line and all this other stuff, and I think NHRA is, obviously you see that they have on the starting line now, they have a spot purely for influencers. They're going in the right direction. It's gonna happen. It's just gonna take time, I guess. Yeah. And hopefully I feel like we would really benefit from, we obviously they have the game coming out soon. I think we're going to benefit from that. I've seen some sneak peaks.
Looks really good.
It looks so cool.
It looks so good.
I don't even really love video games, so I'm like, oh, I'll play that.
Yeah, it looks really good.
So, stuff like that, and maybe potentially getting a TV show, because that did wonders for F1 in the States with being on Netflix.
Right.
Might do the same for drag racing. And I know that's something that everybody's trying to do. I think that's also what's hard, is you only get to see the yeses. You only get to see what people agree to do. You only get to see, the interviews that you've secured. You only get to see, the people that said yes to having you come do this. You don't get to see all the no's that you get, or the non-responses that you get. So I won't say that I think that they're trying. I don't think that it's for lack of effort at this point. I think it just takes a while, and you have to be persistent, and you have to be willing to be annoying in some respects of, come see us. We're cool. Come see us. We're cool. You want to see this? Look at what our race cars do. Here's a little clip. Here's what another celebrity said about what we do, and just keep at it.
Definitely. And
hopefully.
I agree with you. I think the NHRA is moving in the right direction, and people love to bash on the NHRA, but they are moving in that right direction. I completely agree. Like the West Buck show, they've been showcasing, they get stuff from the media center that was never coming out just even 2-3 years ago. And the tone, even to me personally, is different than what it was when I first came in. And like, you see more YouTubers now than you ever did. And it is expanding, and they're realizing we've got to have all the avenues that are out there and participating and in play. So it's cool to see they're moving in the right direction and opening up more, because the sport does need it, and they get it. And it may not be as fast as we want, but it's getting down the road for sure. Not setting any national ET records, but it's happening. It's happening.
Yeah, exactly.
So one last question on F1, because I just find that interesting. Monaco, there is a movement now to move away from that prestigious track and venue and race. Your thoughts? Stay or go?
You got to stay. Something can't be prestigious and can't become legendary if you don't stay. I don't know. I mean, that's how I feel about it. And it's one that I feel like everybody knows, Yes. Everybody knows Monaco. It would be like us getting rid of Indy. We just wouldn't do that.
Right.
Everybody knows Indy. Everybody knows the U.S. Nationals. Everybody knows the Winter Nationals, Pomona. Like that. Those would be ones that would be really hard to get rid of. I think Monaco is that for F1. But speaking to that as well, they are also doing a really good job of bringing in new venues and new tracks that are exciting and appealing and look really cool, and night racing and all that kind of stuff. So, but you can't appreciate the new flashy glammy without having the like quote unquote old money. You got your new money, you got your old money. I think you needed to keep Monaco just for sentimentality reasons, really. So if they do end up shifting away from there, man, if they do end up shifting away, I hope that they go back just for nostalgia. I hope that they do something there, host something. I mean, F1 doesn't have an all-star race. Maybe that's where the all-star race is. I don't know.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. So like all the cars in points, which would be like 8 cars. So there you go. We're having a race out there.
Top 10. That's it.
Top 10. Yeah, top 10. And I agree. I think I feel like if they move away from Monaco, you're eliminating so much history. And I also, me personally, I despise the people who say that they are the best drivers in the world complaining about a racetrack. Unless it is that life-threatening, what you're talking about. Like when NASCAR drivers go to Darlington, they're like, I hate Darlington. I'm like, well, good. You should hate it. You're a professional. And when they go to Monaco and they're like, this place is too tight and our cars don't work. Well, good. You're a professional. Deal with it, and you're in that sport. I mean, I want them to be challenged. I don't want every racetrack to placate to their strengths as drivers.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I also feel like though, as technology gets faster um and there, I think that you do have to look at maybe some modifications to a
Certainly.
track potentially, um, whether it's where spectators are able to be, or it's, building something on top of what's existing to make it a little bit safer for the speeds that you're hoping to reach, or the, you know, whatever it may be, the different tires that they're using, whatever it is. I could see, I would support modifications over leaving. If I had a
agree.
choice, I will
Yeah.
take modifications,
Yeah.
because what's really a lot of with the F1, I also feel like is the setting is really what's cool about it, I guess. It's what is the setting, what does it look like overall, and especially for fans. Yeah, we'll hear about people talking about the track and all of this, but that's one thing that NHRA doesn't really have going for it, is that a lot of our tracks don't have the setting that draws in fans. I feel like F1, all of their settings draw in fans, and I think that's something that they do well, which is why, I mean, they're going to be in Vegas. They're literally, the straightaway is going to be Las Vegas Boulevard. Like,
that's right.
I
feel like we missed it. Like something. How did we not like?
Why are we not drag racing down Las Vegas Boulevard legally?
Right. Why not drag racing? We're there for SEMA all the time. Like what?
NASCAR closes it down for their end of the year stuff.
Why have we not had a top field dragster do a burnout on the strip? Like, why has that not happened?
F1 coming there and having that be the straightaway, maybe that's something that's like, oh, well, let's have an F1 car and a top fuel dragster take the straightaway.
Yes. Needs to happen.
Saying.
Well, I will say, over a top fuel dragster, maybe it does need to be a John Force funny car. Maybe. I mean,
okay. I accept that. I accept that. That's fine. We can make that work.
We can make that work. Cool. We can make that work.
Yeah.
I agree with you, though. I think drag racing could benefit. Not that there's not nice tracks. ZMAX. Wow, what an outstanding
Bristol,
venue.
Sonoma,
right.
Gainesville. There
are great tracks.
But there are definitely tracks that need some love. And it's, it's not that we don't love going there. It's not that we don't want to go there. It's just that, something can't get bigger if the infrastructure of it isn't getting better,
Right.
So that, and a lot of some of that stuff too is also the nostalgia of it. It's, and if you want to draw in the next generation of fans who are these TikTokers and podcasters and YouTube and all this other stuff, it's hard to get them to want to be there if they can't post about what they're doing.
Right. And there's places that it is extremely tough to do that and be on time with it. And I can remember going to races before ever having any media room access. And I'm like, oh, I found that one spot and I got my leg up in the air and phone's up. And I'm like, okay, if I hold my mouth just right.
Exactly. And I think that, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because, we get there on Thursday and we're setting up and everything's fine. Internet's fine. I can post, I can do all this other stuff. And then suddenly we get this influx of people coming in and it's like, okay, everything's kind of like leveled out now and not so great. And so that, I think that's a positive thing, but eventually one thing has to improve the other thing, or otherwise it's just going to teeter totter.
Right. Well, look, I've got a lot more questions and I'm running out of time with you. So let's get down to the nitty gritty, because I know everybody wants me to ask this question. First time meeting John Force. How did that go?
Oh my goodness. Actually, that's a great story. So I'm glad you asked. So the first time I ever met John Force, it was my first time being like lead for a race. It was Topeka 2016. And it was my first time being lead. So I had put together a media tour. I had put together a press conference and all these different things. And so my media tour was with John Force and Robert Height in Kansas City. Elin Werner was the PR rep at the time. Elin was not there. So it was Steve Cole. who was actually with us. And so it was a very memorable media tour. I had John got out of the car at one point to help some geese cross the road. And I thought to myself, oh my God, I'm going to get John Forrest run over by a car. And like, that's going to be it. That's how I'm going to end this. We had a media lunch where we had a reporter who was newer. She was green, and she had an issue with something that John said, or she was uncomfortable, but she was taking photos with him and all this stuff. And at the end went to her editor and said that he was inappropriate, which he totally was not, like, whatsoever. My first time meeting him, I was not uncomfortable. I didn't think he said anything. Some of the other old school reporters tried to bring some stuff up because it was Topeka. I'm not going to say what, but if you know Topeka, you know what they're talking about. So that kind of turned into a thing, which ended up turning into nothing because we just told them to listen to her recorder because she had her recorder on the entire lunch. So that was quite entertaining. He took me to go see, I don't know what the name of the track was, but it was one of those like the rundown tracks. Like, it was no longer a track anymore. Like, there was still like the concrete, but it was all trees and everything was overgrown and everything. But we took a trek out there, and so got to see some history of drag racing, of John remembering, racing at these tracks that literally are no longer racetracks anymore and you can't even tell that it was a racetrack, really. So he actually named me Kansas City for a while. For about a year and a half, he called me Kansas City. He's known for not exactly remembering people's names. Man, does he remember your face. He may not remember how, why, where, or what, but he remembers your face. And he's great. He's great about that. He goes, I know you. I know you from someplace. Oh yeah, that's right. You're blah, 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 or whatever. And for me, it was Kansas City. Yeah, for like a year and a half, I was Kansas City. I mean, I didn't work with him on an everyday basis or anything like that. It was just, when I could, that when we could use him, we used him and everything. But that's how I got to know Brittany and Courtney at the time, and Robert, and some of their crew chiefs a little bit. I wasn't like totally out in the pits. I didn't know the crew guys or anything like that. But that's when that obviously 2016 is when I first really met John Force and got the full effect.
Yes, he definitely does have a thing for nicknames. I have my own with him as Amish guy, so I do. But yeah, what a character! What a interesting
and it's all
individual.
Authentic. That's what
it is. It's
nice
not fake.
About John. And I can say, like, even when he's kind of gets on a rant or gets on a tangent or is overly focused on something, it's just his passion. He's overly focused on something because he's passionate about it and he really wants to know, or he really wants to get it right, or he wants to make sure that you're getting out of it what you need out of it. Even though he's the quote unquote star, he doesn't see himself that way. He still sees himself as an entertainer, and he wants to teach you about his sport. He wants to teach you about who he is, about what he does. He wants you to know who his other drivers are. He wants to make sure he takes care of his sponsors. And it's real passion. It can be a little all over the place sometimes, and it can be, misconstrued sometimes, and it can be, people think it's misplaced or whatever it may be. But everything that he does, all of his emotions that he has, it's out of his passion for the sport. It truly is.
Were you at JFR when the Dale Jr. download dropped?
Yes, I was in the room.
Oh, you were in the room.
Yes, I was there. He actually referenced me several times. Yeah, that was great.
It was a great episode.
Yeah, yes, I was there. Sorry, Dale Jr. And
But
you know, and John knows he does things for specific reasons. You
yeah,
know, he
yeah,
knows what he's doing. And
yes,
he'll push it just as far as he think he can push it, and then he'll just reel it back in. He's
right.
great at that. Great at it. Oh, let me see how far. Okay, that was all right. All right here. This is my sweet spot. You know, and he's good at, you know, feeling that out and testing that out with people that he hasn't met before, or interviewers that he hasn't been with before. So you know, and stuff like that, shows like yours, you know, and your guys' Power Hour, those are the places where you can kind of feel out like, how comfortable can I be, you know, how funny can I get, or you know. And so he's good at it, and he knows who his audience is.
Right, for sure, for sure. Definitely one of the great characters in, I mean, well beyond motorsports. I mean, he's certainly known beyond the drag racing circle. And, you know, if there's a drag racer that someone knows, it's probably John Force. I mean, heck, there's even a rock song uh, uh, about him that was done in the early 90s.
I didn't know this.
You don't know that one?
No.
I'll send it to you later. It's a very obscure group. I can't remember the group's name, but it's like John Force, John Force. Yeah.
Oh my God, I can't wait.
Yeah. I'll have to send it to you.
I'll have to play it for him too.
And it opens up with an interview at him at like Memphis, the whole Elvis and 1,000 feet and all that. Oh yes, it's classic.
Elvis at 1,000 feet.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry.
For sure. So with public relations director, Toyota right now is setting the bar on like manufacturer engagement and exposure for teams and all that. What's it like with Chevy? I mean, John Force Racing and Chevy, that's the banner. So what is going on there? Why doesn't it look similar? Are there talks to ramp it up? What is happening in that relationship, and like, what's your involvement?
Yeah, I mean, I touch base with Chevy several times a month. We actually have a great relationship with them. Yeah, they're trying to switch things up. They know that they want to switch up their social media. They're trying to kind of figure that out. They're building a new facility in Charlotte to kind of ramp things up there. I feel like they're in like a transition year a little bit. They're still very much involved with us. You know, they're great partners. I have never had a problem working with them, even through they've had, you know, transitions and you know, who our liaison or whatever you want to call it is. But their PR team is super helpful and always right there. And, you know, the social media, Ashley and I actually put together, we're supposed to do, you know, a certain amount of videos for them. And, you know, this year they wanted to kind of have a little bit more of like a theme to it, you know? So all I'll say is that they're working on it, and by no means are they going anywhere. And by no, you know, and I know, you know, Toyota's all hyped up right now because the Supra and all that. And I get it, you know, that's something really cool that they're pushing right now. And, you know, Chevy's now, you know, working on their, their electric vehicles and such. And talks of how can we kind of incorporate with that, and always trying to come up with new ideas to kind of keep things interesting and fun. And, you know, but they were just out in Charlotte and kind of were rethinking some branding stuff that they were looking at and placements and such. And, you know, it's been tough because they haven't been able to be out and activating at the races recently. I think once that's back up and running, I think that we'll be right there with Toyota. I'm not worried about it. You know, because Toyota has their great display on the Midway, and Chevy did too, you know, up until the pandemic hit. You know, and I think that I don't want to say that they're recovering, because I don't think that it's still recovery mode. I think they're trying to reevaluate, you know, how to make a splash when they do come back kind of at full force, you know. So yeah, I mean, I work really well with them. I work really closely with them, and we enjoy working with them. They kind of give us a little bit of freedom on what we do for them for social media wise, and their PR team's easy to work with, and if we come up with ideas, it's we take them and we run with them, and they're great support on that end of things. So
So getting toward the end here, we had a good little conversation at Las Vegas on a testing day. American Hot Rod Entertainment shared that he wanted to go to Applebee's, a chain, instead of somewhere local. And I was like, fine, we'll go to Applebee's, even though I wanted to go to Bourbon and Biscuits. I'm still regretting that decision. How do you choose the places in which you will try venue to venue that are new, fresh, and exciting? And what has been the standout of them, I'm going to say, within the last 2 years?
Dang. Okay. Well, first of all, I try not to go to any chain restaurants. When we go to places we mostly see the racetrack, and that's it. So the one kind of quote unquote escape that we get is going to dinner or getting your coffee in the morning. We've had some late nights because of rain recently, so whatever. But no chains. I if I have to go to a Starbucks, I'll go to a Starbucks, but I'm going to find a mom and pop, coffee shop before I go to a Starbucks. If I can, if it's convenient, definitely do the mom and pop. That's easy. Friday mornings, Saturday mornings, if there's time. Kelly Antonelli, who used to be with John Force Racing's now over at Tony Stewart. She and I tracked down places last year because it was just the two of us at JFR, and we tracked down some places, and we're like this. So it's been fun to go back. I mean, Richmond, it was Demolition Coffee. In Petersburg, yeah, and Charlotte, actually, there's one that's like literally down the street, the Percentile. So those are some staples. And Houston, the Art of Coffee, right in Kima Boardwalk. Man, I'm gonna miss that place. But then as far as food wise, like I said, I'll literally just Google, and I don't want to see any chain places. And I'm usually looking for some place that's also going to make a really good cocktail. So that's kind of necessary. But yeah, it just kind of goes based off of seeing the photos and stuff. And, luckily a lot of people on my team are the same way. They want to go, someplace that's unique to the place that we're at. One of my all-time favorite finds ever was actually in Las Vegas, but it's off the Strip. And it's not the Tacos El Gordo or anything like that. It's called Tacos and Beer. And it's fantastic. And I've probably recommended 24 people to go there, and every single person goes and says that they love it, and it was great and it was fun. It's definitely a little more local. It looks like it's in like a little strip mall or whatever, but it's actually really, really good. And the way that I found it is pretty fantastic. Actually, I won't even take credit for being the only person that found it. 2017, myself and one of my coworkers at the time and another PR rep for a team, because I was still at NHRA, we actually all went and got pedicures at this little strip mall or whatever. And then we're like, well, we're going to do lunch/dinner afterwards. And we didn't really put in much effort into finding where we were going to go. This place just happened to be right in the same little strip mall. So it's been a staple for me. I have to go at least once every time we go to Vegas. So since 2017, Tacos and Beer has had my business every time I've come to Vegas. And it does not disappoint ever. While they do have good beer, they also have really good margaritas. There's also a place in Reading. It's a pizza place. Go figure, Reading, Pennsylvania. But it's a pizza place that I absolutely love. And if it's an Italian place, if Kelly Antonelli and Guido will go, it's a good Italian place. So that's a good starter for figuring out the Italian food side of things, at least. So
Fiesta. Yes. Man, there's so much good food around the country, and if you can get away from a chain, definitely do it. Get away from a chain. And look, to anyone watching, I recommend too, whenever you go to a racetrack, don't just go to the racetrack. There's probably something else very cool. Go check it out. Like, I went out to Odessa this last weekend for Funny Car Chaos, and lo and behold, Odessa's got a meteor crater It's not a very big one, but I'm like, I've never seen that. Let me go check that out. Went and checked it out. And then they also have on the strange college name, University of Texas Permian Basin. Yeah, say that in announcing. Oh my goodness. They have a replica of Stonehenge, of all things, on the campus. And I was like, well, that's cool because I've been to Stonehenge, but you can't get nowhere near the dang rocks because someone graffitied them. And they're like, no, you know. So this, you can actually, for free, go touch them and be near them and kind of get a sense of how big they are. So, yeah, go check stuff out, people.
Bristol,
Don't just go to the track.
Bristol, Tennessee has caverns literally down the street from the racetrack.
Yeah.
Went and did that. That was cool.
There you go.
Random stuff.
There's also a bar in Bristol where you can stand in Virginia and Bristol and Tennessee at the same time.
Yeah. Yep. Been there too. That's a good one. Go stand and be like whatever. There's always been those commercials about being in two places at once, whatever.
There you go. All right. So let me wind this down. Last question for you, Sarah. Thank you for your time. Is there anything that Miss Slaughter can clue us in on as public relations director that we might not should know, but she's willing to let us know about John Force Racing?
Ooh. Man, I always feel like there's those obscure rumors that always are floating around. What the one last year was Robert was going to take over. I was like, yes. I don't think so. No, I know sometimes people may act like the sky is falling or whatever, or, you know, John, when are you going to retire? Man, he's not ready. He's not ready. I don't think he's going to be ready anytime soon. You know, he just hired an entire commercial team to, you know, find us new sponsors just in case. I mean, you could always use more money when it comes to sponsorship, buy more parts, buy bigger parts, get new stuff, whatever. So, you know, I can't foresee him. He's not going anywhere anytime soon. I can't imagine what John Force would be like not driving a funny car. And I don't ever want to see that, I don't think. So all the rumors of when are you retiring? Oh, you should be giving it up. I mean, why? He's 73 and he just won his 155th race. I just, you know, people want to compare him, want him to be the GOAT and want to compare him to, you know, Tom Brady. Well, Tom Brady retired for like 40 days and was not happy with it. And I feel like that's kind of how John would be. He'd not like it. He wouldn't even miss anything. It would just be the off season. So, you know, John Force Racing is good to go. Love having Austin back. It was really heartbreaking to have to, you know, see him obviously not be in the seat when he really wanted to be. That's his passion. And I think you see it now of, you know, how proud he is to be in a seat and how he wants to do right by JFR, but he also wants to do right by his sponsors that have, you know, stuck by him and want to be there and you know, have come back to be with him, you know. So it's not going anywhere. You know, we've got junior racers that are coming up. You know, the one thing I hate hearing is when people say, oh, the sport really needs John, you know, and it's like, well, you know, John really needs the sport too. You know, it's his baby. He loves it. And if he wasn't doing this, I don't know what he would be doing. So I know that's not as juicy as you probably wanted to be. It's probably because there's not much juiciness there. There's no tea to tell. It's we're up, we're running, we're growing. And I think that that's a really positive thing. And I don't think the sky is falling. But yeah, we're growing and we're maintaining, but we're bringing in new at the same time. You know, John's always big about, while we bring in new money, we can't forget about the people that have always been there with us, and making sure we take care of them. So, no, we're strong. Yeah. Sorry, it wasn't juicy.
Long live John Force, and may everyone remember his name.
Yeah. I even got the Brute Force T-shirt on, you know, repping.
Oh,
Pulled an old school for you.
we need full throwback is what we need eventually. Come on, Peak, work it out.
John talks about it. We
need full throwback.
I think I don't think you're going to get. Well, this is totally non-official or anything like that, but I don't think that you're going to get a full throwback until he is ready to retire. So be okay with the fact that it's not a full throwback yet.
Okay.
Because I think, in my opinion, that's when he should do it.
Yeah. Look, it does shock me that you have individuals, they make statements like John needs to move on or something like that. John he still carries weight out there, and he is the great of funny car and NHRA drag racing. And no one's got the numbers, and no one has accomplished what he has. And beyond the drag racing, in what drag racing has done, as we kind of started off earlier with you, he represents the American freaking dream.
Yeah. Coming up from nothing and literally living in a trailer park. We have photos in our museum here in Yorba Linda of him in his football uniform outside of, his trailer, and, and the stories that he tells from when he, used to drive truck. I remember we were coming back from LA. We just did I think it was probably ESPN at the time. But he would talk about how he was something, I think it was like cakes, or it was chocolate or something that he was driving in it, and it spilled into the middle of the road, and all the kids got sick because they were running up and trying to eat the chocolate. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, this man has lived a whole lot of life. That's the one thing that I feel like it's hard for us to realize, is that John Force didn't start drag racing until later in life. Like, he lived a whole life before he actually started drag racing, and that's true with, with Robert as well. Robert grew up a fan, he's from Northern California, has been to every single national event at Sonoma, first as a fan, then as a crew guy, and now as a driver, and it's just, but they didn't start until later. It's not like with, Autumn Height, who junior dragster racing, going up to Super Comp, and been around it her whole life. Same thing with Jacob and Noah Hood, from Ashley and Danny. So John while drag racing has been the last 47 years of John's life, he had a whole 30 something years before that, 20 something years. He's only 73. Of driving truck and having a life and trying to make it, and drag racing in places that we would never go back to,
Yeah, he represents more than just a drag racer. And again, thank you for coming on, because just like you shared and mentioning that John's got a story beyond drag racing, you do as well. And that's why I have Between the Slicks, because how the world you got here from where you were, or even myself, people look at me and what I've created in this persona, and it's like, have you always done this? Well, no, I haven't, obviously. Yeah. And there's been welding and dairy farming and pasturing and so much else in the background to this very point.
Were you a milkman? Were you a milkman?
I worked 2 years on a dairy farm. Yes.
Oh my gosh, our hospitality guy was a milk, he actually drove truck with milk in it. He was a milkman too. So that's kind of fantastic.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you that the happy little cow on your milk carton is a lie. It is a lie.
I am not surprised. I'm not surprised.
It is a lie. It is a lie. Enjoy your glass of milk, but it is, oh, wow. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Very interesting. Very interesting. Well, Sara, look, thank you for your time tonight and getting a glimpse into someone that is behind the scenes. People will see you at the track, and people will wonder, what does she do and how did she get there? And I think those stories are just as fascinating as John's story, or is anyone else driving a race car. And thank you for what you're doing in the sport of drag racing, and keep moving it forward. Thank you, Sara.
Yeah, thank you. It was great being on.
Hero Soap Company is a veteran-owned establishment that produces all-natural, essential oils-infused soap that is sold with a portion of the proceeds supporting other veteran groups. Hero Soap Company. Heroes supporting heroes. Be a hero yourself and buy a bar and let freedom clean.
And folks, that will be it for Between the Slicks. We just had Sara Slaughter on, Public Relations Director for John Force Racing. And that was enjoyable. I know you had to enjoy it just as much as I did, and getting a behind-the-scenes glimpse into the world of John Force Racing and what she does. And Sarah's just a great individual. She's very bubbly and energetic, as you can tell. Definitely a great choice to have on and interview. Pat says, what a great episode. Thanks to Sara for some great stories. Definitely. Dennis Fram says, this is a great show. Appreciate that, man. We try to make it such and get the stories of drag racing, again, between the slicks, no matter who they are in the world of drag racing. Hey, feel free. Maybe email me who's someone you might like to have on, someone that I might need to interview. I still need to get Richard Hartman on. He's still on my list. And I'm definitely going to be working with Sara, as I hope to get some John Force Racing drivers on and talk with them soon. In fact, my plan is we're getting very close to the 100th episode of Between the Slicks. We're at episode 93 right now. And it is my plan to, when we hit that 100th to the 110th episode, try to get some of the biggest names on YouTube, in drag racing, and really try to elevate this show. I would like to have more people watching it, because I feel like I'm putting good content out and a show that is worthy to watch and getting stories that are worthy of hearing. And we're going to make an attempt, and I want you all to help me. That 100th episode, hopefully we have a big name and then big name and then big name. You all hit the like button for me and hit the share button. Let me say that at one time, I think on YouTube, there was like 20 plus something people watching, and I've got 25 likes. Thank you for that. You do not know how big a like actually works within the algorithm of YouTube. So thank you for that. Paul says, thank you for the great show. Appreciate it, man. Did you? Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, Mr. Bland. Oh, I can't say it now. I cannot say your first name. I'm so sorry. Mr. Bland, hey, he does a great job on his podcast. He's got a podcast. If you want to, put it in the comment section so people can access it. I think it's only on the I side of things, but I appreciate it, man. Appreciate that. We'll definitely have fun. And Dave W., as you all may know him, David, says it's a great show. I appreciate it, man. And you can check out his YouTube channel. And feel free to put a link in, David, of your YouTube channel. He's got a lot of great old content from the NHRA that you can check out. Well, ladies and gentlemen, look, that's it for me. I've got to work on some Funny Car Chaos videos, and I got to get ready to leave out for Norwalk, Ohio for the PDRA, and then eventually get over to Indianapolis for the Indianapolis 500. And before we do go, Kev for Fun says, great show. Thank you, man. And Mr. Bland says, the Not Bland show on Ghostcast. So you all can check that out. And it's definitely not bland. And I like the play on the name, man. I like the play on the name. Well, to each and every one of you, thank you for watching. Be sure to come right back here Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern time. I don't got a clue who we'll have on for next week, but they will be from the world of drag racing, and they will have a great story, and we will get it right here. Until next time, God bless.